So we're live. So today's properties and beers is a little bit different. Hey, we're on Wednesday. We're not talking any other day because I don't think Aussies are angry. Look, sorry, before I get started, let's talk about the budget. Right, it's going to be a bit different today because I don't think Aussies are angry simply because the government wants housing affordability. Right, I think Aussies are angry because it feels like the people trying to get ahead are constantly being punished for it. And yesterday's federal budget announcement, like after that, my phone exploded. Not from billionaires or mega corporations. Of course, I'd love to be friends with a whole heap of them, but from everyday Aussies, who I'm even more proud to be friends with. Tradies, nurses, business owners, young couples, mom and dad investors at the end of the day, right? People are trying to build one investment property. They're not trying to build a mega empire, right? So they can hopefully retire one day without relying on the pension. And they're all asking me the same question. Why does it feel like Australia doesn't want people to succeed anymore? I mean, wasn't that the great Aussie dream? Like purchase a home, maybe as an investment, pay both down, retire comfortably, and pass that on to the next generation. Now, before anyone jumps down my throat, I understand what the government's trying to do, right? I really understand it, right? Housing affordability, let's say that again. Housing affordability is a genuine issue, right? Young Australians are suffering and something needs to change, fair enough. But the way they're going about this, that's where people get frustrated, right? Because on the surface, things sound noble. Reduce negative gearing, reduce the CGT concessions, and tax the investors more heavily. It makes sense, right? Politically, that sounds fantastic, right? Because it creates this narrative that there's this evil conglomerate of investors that are the problem. But here's the issue. You do not solve a housing crisis by discouraging people to provide housing. That just blows my mind. Because if investors pull back, who's going to build the rental supply? If investors stop buying, what happens to the rent? Now, before I go further, I'm going to start my beverage. This is Properties and Beers. And I bought a very strong drink, and I figured I'd have the whole damn bottle on Properties and Beers today. So I'm giving a whole hot Don Julio. Drop me a line in the comments. As you can see, I'm opening it up. We are give it a sip for good measure. Literally down a whole bottle of tequila. That's what the budget's made me do. Needs to be sipped. It is a Resposado. Those that know, I actually am a fan of tequila. So yeah, I promise you this shall be finished by today, right? Literally drinking a whole bottle of tequila on Properties and Beers. Who would have thought? But that's what the budget's made us do. So as I was saying before, right, if investors stop buying, what happens to the rents, right? If people stop taking risks, what happens to development? Because despite what the media narrative says, most investors aren't billionaires flying around in these private jets. They're everyday Aussies like you and me trying to create financial security for themselves and their families, right? And that's where I think people feel completely hoodwinked. Because these changes didn't just hurt the ultra wealthy the way that people think they do. The mega wealthy, they'll restructure, they'll move their assets into companies, they'll pivot strategies, they will be fine. It's the people who are aspiring to get wealthy who get squeezed. The PAYG earner who's trying to build a future, the small business owner, the couple trying to create passive income, the family trying not to become a burden on the system later on in life. That, my friends, is who feels this. And honestly, I think so many Aussies are frustrated right now because for decades and decades, we've been taught to work hard, save the money, invest wisely, take responsibility for your future, do the right thing. And it feels that every time someone tries to get ahead, the rules change. Now, before I talk about the rules and go for a rant, I still need to have my tequila. By the way, I'm watching my comments on the other screen, so feel free to comment. Wow. Definitely glad I got the Resposado tequila. So now let's talk about the CGT changes, because this is the part that most people don't fully understand, right? The government is slashing 50% capital gain discount, moving back towards inflation with indexing of a minimum of 30% on gains from July 2027. That sounds like a lot of gobbledygook. And again, on paper, that sounds fair. Let's tax real gains. Cool. But here's the problem. Imagine a mum and dad investor who bought a property for $200,000 30 years ago. That money had way more buying power back then. They've held the property for decades, paid tax on rental income, maintained the property, taken the risk. Now the property's worth $1 million, and suddenly the government wants a far bigger slice of that game. Yeah, I understand the grandfathering, right? But what happens to the future when you want to do the same thing, right? That old 50% discount thing wasn't perfect, but at least it was simple and reasonably fair way to acknowledge long-term investing and inflation over time. Right now, we have some of the high, but before people go on around, we have some of the highest capital gains tax in the world. The world. Now, people who spend these decades trying to build the retirement security are getting punished for it. And then there's negative gearing. Oh boy, oh boy, I better take a step back because that's where the government misses the mark completely. They're restricting negative gearing for established properties and pushing it towards new builds only from July 2027. And again, it sounds good politically, right? Let's boost housing supply. Great idea in theory. But investors, my friends, know that new builds come with risks too. This construction delays, builder collapses, quality issues, valuation risks. And bait, I actually like new builds, but they take time. And meanwhile, people still need rental properties. Not everyone can buy. Not everyone wants to be laden with a 30-year mortgage. And a lot of my clients are actually rent investors, right? So, but also the lower socioeconomic, people who can never afford to save, that's who this leaves behind. Because what happens when fewer investors provide the rental stock? Rents rise. Guys, I believe rents will go up by about 30%, right? And, you know, a few people I've seen on my Facebook also believe that, right? But it's basic economics. And honestly, surely I'm not the only one thinking about this, right? I'm not. Sometimes I sit there thinking, surely a bunch of career politicians can't actually believe that reducing investor confidence magically fixes this housing affordability challenge that we have. Because the housing affordability challenge didn't just happen yesterday. It was created over 20 years through inaction, through NIMBYs. Yeah, not in my backyard. It was created by councils. And it was created by so many other challenges. And honestly, whether you agree with me or not, that's fine. That kind of mentality has never historically created prosperity. You want to create prosperity? Look what Singapore's doing. Look what all these other countries are doing to create the prosperity. We don't want to go from the lucky country to the left behind country because that's what extra taxes do, right? The important part tonight is I didn't want to just live stream this because there was another angry rant on the internet, but because anger without direction changes nothing. And if one thing I've learned from studying people like Tony Robbins, you know, Tony Robbins and other people like Alex Hormozy, successful entrepreneurs and elite investors, is that the most successful people in the world, they don't spend their lives complaining about conditions. They adapt, they innovate, and they move faster than anyone else can emotionally. And I've done it too when it comes to anything with special disability combination, when no one else was doing it, right? While most people freeze in uncertainty, leaders, my friends, get resourceful. Now I'm going to get resourceful with this tequila. For those that are just joining me, I promised to finish a whole bottle of tequila today, and I damn well. Because, look, here's the thing I'm going to borrow from Tony Robbins, because the quality of your life is ultimately shaped by the quality of decisions you make during uncertain times. That, my friends, is what separates people financially and emotionally. It's not luck, it's not your background, not even the economy, or what Jim Chalmers has to say. It's who can stay focused when everyone around them is emotional. And look, I get it. Like, I get the fear people are feeling right now. The economy feels uncertain. There's a war going on in Iraq. Interest rates are high. People are changing. Policies are changing. People feel like the game keeps moving for them, right? But history's shown us something over and over again. Wealth is built by people who can learn to adapt faster than the environment changes around them. And that is why mindset matters so much. Because if you constantly consume fear, you'll hesitate. You'll delay action. And delayed action destroys more wealth than bad markets ever will. And despite my rants on Facebook today, the most investors I know, they're not fearless. They're decisive. They understand the uncertainty is part of the game, right? And instead of asking, why is this happening to me? They ask, what would life be like if it happened for me? How do I position myself in a way to win anyway? That's the difference. Because the truth is, there's still opportunities. There's still strategies that really work. There are still ways to build wealth ethically and intelligently and help our fellow Aussie. But now more than ever, in order to make this work, your strategy matters, your cash flow matters, and your asset selection matters, as well as the resilience of the portfolio. You need what I've been terming recently as the all weather portfolio. I borrowed it from Tony Robbins. I think it's a fantastic analogy. That's a portfolio that's designed to survive changing government minds, right? Changing policies, changing interest rates, changing economic conditions, because the one constant in life is that it will change, right? Here's the truth. You can't control government policy, but you can control your strategy, right? And the investors that win again and again, the investors that'll win over the next decade won't be the people complaining online all day. These will be the people that adapt, the people that move when everything else freezes, the people who understand where the opportunity still exists, the people who focus on long-term thinking instead of short-term fear. Because here's the thing, right? Successful people understand something that most people never fully grasp. Your future should never be decided by a politician. It should be decided by your standards, your discipline, your ability to execute when things get uncomfortable. And it's often in the moments that frustrate people the most. That we learn in Tony Robbins, the moment frustration hits you is the moment your biggest breakthroughs happen. And if you're watching this tonight, feeling a little bit frustrated, like I was last night and I was this morning, good. Channel it, use it as fuel, use it as motivation, use it to become more financially independent. Use it to become more financially independent and intelligent, right? More strategic, more resilient, because sitting around pissed off at the government where like and how they change your future, it won't change anything. But taking action on it might. So if you want help building that high cash flow all weather portfolio designed to survive changing markets and changing government bullshit, reach out to the team. Reach out to us. Find us on Instagram, Facebook, wherever it is. Because now more than ever, you need a strategy, not just hope. And guys, cheers. I hope you have a fantastic weekend despite the challenges that are here. And I wish you the luck in your investing future.